western part of the country have introduced some strict new rules, and that's where we find our reporter Jaime Velasquez this morning. Jaime, let's take the situation first of all then in Galicia in the northwest. What are these restrictions that have been brought into place, and how do they compare with what's going on in the rest of the country?
Well, Galicia was one of the regions that was somehow spared in the first wave, and this is why the regional government here is taking very seriously the situation at the moment. Here in Galicia was the first region to introduce a banning of smoking, for example, on the streets, because now we know that 35% of the new infections are actually happening in social gatherings, like, for example, nightclubs or even on the streets. And these kind of restrictions are now going to be introduced at the national level. What we are very worried at this point here in Galicia and the rest of Spain is that we know that most of the cases are actually driven by the youth that is happening in these social gatherings, and also that we need to look for asymptomatic people. This is why, for example, in A Coruña, one of the worst places here in Galicia, 78% of the new cases are actually happening on that particular city. They are going to also start massive testing on the hunt for asymptomatic people that are actually driving the infections in this new wave that we looked at is already on the way here in Spain.
What about the situation in other parts of Spain then? Which regions are seeing the worst rise in cases?
Well, it looks like we are in the transmission is at its highest peak here in Spain since the month of June, with areas like Madrid, Catalonia, Basque Country as well, Valencia, adding up thousands of cases daily. The new restrictions will start from today. Smoking will be banned on the streets where you cannot keep social distancing. The government is going to double up efforts to stop informal gatherings on the streets where alcohol is involved, and nightclubs, as we heard before, are also going to be closed. Also, massive testing is going to start in the search for those asymptomatic people that it looks like are actually driving the new infections, very young people. And something that is very worrying is that a lot of those people that are not showing symptoms, they even sometimes believe what is actually happening. We saw very worrying pictures this weekend in Madrid. Up to 3,000 people demonstrated on the streets against this fake pandemic. And this is very, very, very important now, how we are going to look for those asymptomatic cases, and especially how are we going to tell them that actually they are infected and they need to stay at home and they need to keep social distancing, wearing masks in order to stop the infections. And this is happening just 3 weeks before schools will start here in Spain. These coming weeks are going to be instrumental to see if we manage to flatten this curve that it looks at is on the way up here in Spain.
Jaime Velasquez, thanks very much for joining us there from Galicia. Well, let's see some pictures now from Madrid, where hundreds of protesters gathered in the Spanish capital to demonstrate against the use of mandatory